Why hello there. I'm Mapledungeons, and today I'm going to be taking a look at a third engineer build, this time a more supportive build. This build is good for healing your friends, being good support with some reasonable CC, and doing a little bit of damage. Now, I think I've been doing these videos kind of wrong in the past, and what I think I should actually be doing from now on is going over the weapons and abilities first. Now, the weapon set I'm using on my engineer is the pistol and shield. On the pistol, I have a sigil that gives me a 30% chance to heal nearby allies every 10 seconds, and then some life stealing on my offhand. Now, what this gives me is some good condition damage, as well as the knockback on the shield, which is good CC, and the stun on the shield, which is also good CC. I then am using the healing turret. This is something you could change for the medkit if you really wanted to, depending on what kind of role you're filling out in the game, but the turret is very good. It's very powerful in terms of the healing it gives out regen to everyone, and it puts out a water field, so you can put it out,
getting healthy,
pop its heal, and then make it explode, and it'll do some pretty good healing there. The thing about that is that it's probably the best heal you can do if you're going to be staying on one point or close to that. If you're going to be being really mobile and using some more offensive abilities, you might want to switch over for the medkit, because it does offer, as we can see here, the fury and swiftness, which is extremely useful if you're needing to do some more damage, and it does offer some extra condition removal if you need that. But for the majority of the time, you want to stick to the healing turret. In terms of the utility abilities I'm using the Elixir R, which will make me recover from a stun and refill my endurance. So what it'll do, it'll give me 2 extra dodges, like so, or you can just use it whenever you need to break out of a stun. So that's pretty useful, considering a trait that I'm using, which I'll get into in a bit. And the extra skill on the Elixir R is probably even more powerful, in that you can toss it down on the ground, and it will both cure conditions on anyone in it, and heal them up if they're downed by 20% at a time. So you can use this to heal an ally, to revive an ally if you need to. If they're going to get stomped and you don't want to get in too close to just die, you can throw that down. Or, if you get your timing right, you can actually use it on yourself and res yourself immediately, which is extremely useful. It's not too effective when you're facing 2 opponents, but you can almost get it off 100% if you're 1v1ing, which is pretty cool, considering this build is pretty good for guarding a point if necessary. Now, the other ability, the second ability I'm using is the flamethrower. The flamethrower is a weapon set, which offers some pretty good fire condition damage, some reasonable damage in general, a knockback, and a blind. So this is a weapon you mainly want to switch to for when you're doing really close range combat, or when you want to CC your enemy. You want to switch into it quickly, throw it a knockback, throw it an AoE blind, and then sometimes you might want to use the fire field here to give your team might, and then you'll do that on the fire field to give some might. The other thing that I'm using is the elixir gun. The elixir gun has a variety of cool effects, including the basic thing, which is some weakness and bleeds, and then the elixir F here, which will cripple enemies and make everyone around you go faster. So that's extremely useful, especially if the enemy is melee. And then we have poison as well as vulnerability, just for some good damage, and the vulnerability really helps with your team's damage. And then a leap, just to get out of the way. This is just an escape mechanism, basically. It does a little damage, but not too much. And then finally, the best part, which is the super elixir, and once dropped on the ground, this will give us regeneration, it'll give us some healing here, and it's a light combo field, so you can combo stuff off it, remove condition, like so. it's extremely good for condition removal. And then the Elite is basically the normal thing that almost all engineers use, which is the supply crate. It's a good stun, it's a good amount of turrets, and it's some extra healing. So it is the ideal skill to use in this case. Now, with all of that said, if we can go into armor here before we go into traits, I'm using 6 runes of Melandru. Now this is something that might need to be swapped off occasionally, I don't know. It's good for the toughness, and it is good for both stun removal and condition removal. So this gives both 10% minus to condition duration on the second one, and then 15% condition duration. So all conditions will last 25% less time on you when you're using this rune set. So a lot of teams are running conditions, and this is very effective, but you might want to carry a bunch of runes of different kinds and switch it out for Dwana if you think you're going to be facing a team that is not condition heavy, or that you think you can get rid of all the conditions. So Dwana is an equal, even better in some situations, option to Melandru. The amulet I'm using is the Shaman's Amulet. The Shaman's Amulet is useful in the fact that it gives toughness, healing power, and condition damage. Considering most of our damage is condition with the pistol, with the flamethrower, and with the elixir gun, it's very useful to have that extra condition damage, and then we just have the toughness for survivability and healing power in order to keep us and allies up, as we have a lot of heals with this build. Those heals, by the way, if I need to count them off, we have our healing turret, which will heal allies. We have the healing turret special ability, the regenerating mist. And then we have a second regenerating mist on the regen gun here. And then when we switch to the elixir gun here, we get the super elixir, and then we have a second super elixir which will drop. So that is pretty perfect in terms of the amount of healing you'll give. It's not probably the most healing in the game, but it's quite comparable to something like an Ellie. Now let's get into some traits. We're having 10 points into firearms. In fact, let me just talk about these 3 skills here, which will be coming from tools, alchemy, and firearms. They all go together and are something you might want to change if you even remove one of them. So the thing is, we have the 50% chance to gain swiftness whenever we crit, and then swiftness comes up whenever we equip a kit. So the combination of these 2 things gives us a pretty high swiftness uptime, and we'll be getting swiftness quite a bit, which is why I selected the invigorating speed, which makes us gain vigor whenever we gain swiftness. So what this will do, it'll give you a whole bunch of extra dodges. You'll be dodging so much, especially with this extra elixir R, so you'll be dodging, you'll be getting your endurance back quickly, and then when you, in the final event, run out, you'll pop your elixir R and keep on dodging. So you'll be able to dodge just constantly, and your enemies will hate you for it. It's an option, and it's one kind of playstyle, so if you're going to be defending a point and needing that a lot, you might want to go for that. The reason I'm doing that over the, where is it, self-regulating defense, it's another option here. It'll make us drink an elixir S at 25% health, and it's a 90-second cooldown. It's very strong. This ability is very strong and will allow us to do quite well in terms of surviving, but the thing is, when you're immune for those 3 seconds, you're no longer capping a point. So the option here is whether you're going to be sitting on a point or not. As this support build, you are very capable of defending a point solo, even against 2 people. I've done it pretty effectively. So that might be a position you're put on. If you're not though, if you're going to be fighting in mid with other people, and you don't need to be capping points, then you might want to go for Elixir S here. You might want to go for that self-regulating defense. And then you'll want to switch out this skill here for something else. You might want to switch it out for the precise sights, which will give enemies vulnerability and will help out your team, or the hair trigger, which will decrease the recharge rate on rifle, pistol, and harpoon skills, and that will be useful just for your pistol here. It will decrease the rate on the blind you're using, as well as the poisons, for a little bit of extra damage. It is pretty much just up to you. With that said, let's go over the final traits here. We have 20 points into inventions, which gives us the protection for 3 seconds whenever hit by a critical attack, and that'll be very useful just for pure survivability. And then some more toughness here, as well as a 20% recharge rate on our shield and on our stun. And then I have the 50% extra damage with a flamethrower or elixir gun. Any build in this game that has no damage is pretty much useless. And no, I'm not going to say it's fully useless, because there are some good bunker builds that can do it, but you really don't want any more than one person on your team going for a no damage build. And you want to be able to do some damage and support your support your teammates by killing enemies in that way. So that's why I have this 15% extra damage with the flamethrower and elixir gun, which is going to be a major part of our total damage. I then have the final skill in tools, which will make it so whenever I equip a kit, it will create an attack or spell. I have 2 kits here. The flamethrower will just create a little explosion here, and more importantly, the elixir gun, when equipped, will drop a super elixir. Now, it doesn't say this anywhere in the description or anything, but what this is a super elixir. And what it will do is what it says here. It'll give you extra healing, it'll do the combo field for extra condition removal, and it will help you a ton overall. So that is why the whole build kind of relies around this, and relies around all the healing you'll be able to do from the sidelines. I hope this video helped you. I hope you enjoy the build. I'll post a link to the build down below so it's easier to copy out onto your game if you want to do that, although I suggest you take this build and change it to support your own playstyle. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll hopefully get some gameplay out about this build sometime soon. I've been Mapledungeons, and I'll see you next time.